Well, welcome back to Flintco Talks. I'm your guest host today. My name is Rex Woods, and I'm joined by Vernelle Chase, Director of Tribal Relations for Flintco. Vernelle, every time I see you, it makes me happy. I get lots of energy off you. Thanks for doing this in honor of Native American Heritage Month. And so today we just want to kind of get to know you, start to finish, right? And so let's start by talking about your past and where you grew up, what that was like, and we'll just start there.
Well, thank you. It's exciting to be here, and it's quite an honor to be able to represent Indian country and honor Native American Heritage Month. So thank you, and thank Flintco for this time. So I was born and raised on the Fort Belknap Indian Reservation in rural Montana, north central Montana, approximately 45 miles south of the Canadian border. Very diverse country. You grow up cowboy way of life. We all work together because of the extreme temperatures, etc. But it was a good life. I was raised in a country setting, rodeoing, as well as my parents working in their market sectors for our tribe. My mother was our college president, and our father was our tribal Indian water rights director. Also worked seasonal construction projects throughout our life. So we had a good life. I have two sisters and a brother.
Keep going.
I had two sisters and a brother. I come from a long line of war veterans. Both of my fathers served in the Vietnam War, my grandfather in the Korean War, and my paternal grandfather was a Bataan Death March survivor. So we come from a long line of warriors, which I'm quite honored and blessed to have their teachings passed down to me. So really very fortunate and diverse in my upbringing. Parents were very adamant in keeping us well-rounded. We were approximately 3 miles off of the reservation is where we went to school, and our parents kept us active in 4-H, piano, many activities off of the reservation. At the time, of course, we wondered why. We wanted to be doing things on our side of the river, but our parents continued to push us to get outside of our comfort zone. And now I look back and think about the foresight that they had, and I'm so thankful for that, because you continue to grow and get out of your comfort zone to be better. And if I haven't learned one thing in this industry is to be very fluid and be agile, because there's so many diverse needs serving Indian country, and something just from construction in our market sector. So being like water and being able to flow to meet those needs, and really Flintco being able to support that has been phenomenal. I've watched the growth in 30 years, and something that I'm very, very honored to have been a part of.
Yeah, that's one of the things I want to explore today with you is, what life was like when you were growing up and you saw life through a child's lens, if you will, and then today, and really take you on that journey of how you've been able to impact with what you do, the people that you really serve, outside of Flintco. So we're going to get to that. I wanted to ask you, so you were at Fort Belknap, and a project was going on the reservation, and I wanted to ask you, what compelled you to walk up to that trailer and knock on that door?
Well, let me back it up just a bit. So I went to college on a rodeo scholarship. So I went to a community college on a rodeo scholarship. And in between college and summer breaks, et cetera, I worked for my tribe. Started working in the planning department, where if a grant was received, you also had to execute it. Mm-hmm. And I had a wonderful mentor by the name of Barb Stiffarm that I worked for many years, worked for different tribal programs as well. I was going into special education. I was in line to be a special ed teacher, a fifth generation teacher, because I come from a long line of educators as well. And to be honest, started working for Flintco, enjoyed it, and my colleagues, the opportunity came up while I was working for the tribe to work for Flintco as we were building 2 healthcare centers on their reservation, one on the south end to serve that district, and then one at the agency to serve that district. And I had 2 colleagues that just pumped me up and said to go for it. And I think about those 2 individuals today, and I still thank them, because they helped me to create a path that by taking advantage of that opportunity, it helped me to create a path for my children, to raise them in a quality of life that was outside of the reservation, that for me was identified as important to continue to grow and progress as our nations do, and to be able to promote my children to come back and do good for our tribe or other tribes and working with our tribes. But in order to do that and be well versed, we had to leave. And so I'm very thankful for that. But what compelled me? The courage that was given to me by my colleagues, but I enjoyed what I was doing. Watching projects go up all around us, the opportunities come few and far between, and I went for it. I remember the superintendent that interviewed me and the tasks that he put me through that were, I look back, they were quite simple, but I'm thankful I passed his test, but he was a man of integrity. I remember on Friday at 4:30, he would look around, nobody on the job site, and he would say, well, Vernelle, let's call it a day. And I've been really blessed by mentors of working with Flintco, with integrity to the work, the industry, and their core values. Truly been blessed with the individuals that have come in and supported the efforts of building an Indian country. But I also thank the biggest critics, because they were those that motivated me to think along the lines of the overall outcome and how everybody could benefit. So as nice as it is to be with the crowd that's applauding and cheering you on, I really encourage each and every individual to look at their critics and how you work with those individuals and identify the spots early on that will be pinch points in a project. If you can identify those early on, the project will go a lot smoother, and you try to learn how to compromise and work with all of those. But at the end of the day, the vision of building a state-of-the-art health facility while utilizing our people is the ultimate goal. And over 3 decades, Flintco has supported that effort, and we have a track record that stands out and has become our differentiator. When we started, though, I know where that come from and that initiative, and it was doing the right thing because it only made sense. These are American Indian dollars that are carved out for American Indian healthcare, American Indian schools, education, justice centers. Why wouldn't we be utilizing the most valuable resource? And that's the people that live on those lands that will be in those facilities, where it's their family or themselves. And what we noticed is they became the eyes and the ears on the projects for quality control, theft, they took ownership of these projects early on. And to be a part of that, it made construction fun. It made the whole process fun, and you walk away and you feel good when you look back. And these facilities out in the middle of nowhere, you can build them in urban areas and it's just business as usual. But when you go to a grand opening or a groundbreaking and you hear the history of what it took to bring these projects, just to be able to turn the dirt, to start these projects, and to be a part of that is powerful. And these special projects, and it takes a special individual to be able to execute these projects, from our superintendents to our project managers. And Flintco identified this. It's challenging work, but it's extremely rewarding work. To know that you will be affecting the quality of life for generations to come, to quantify that and to push that through your employees that may be a part of this project, the support staff, in order to accomplish the goals, not only in Flintco, but meeting the unique goals of the tribes and understanding what they are, and understanding that they're not the same across the country. 576 federally recognized tribes. There's a lot of differences, and I'm very proud of the colleagues that I work with in understanding what that means to build an Indian country and how to be successful.
Yeah, you've had quite a journey getting from where you started to where you are today. What do you think, from your perspective, has been the biggest change just in our industry, working in Indian country?
There was a time when you never saw our own people on the other side of the table. Our tribes were, granted, this is on average, there wasn't American Indians across the table with us working or at the table in terms of executing these projects. Today, we are instrumental to the success of these projects, whether it's on the owner's side, the owner's rep side, or individuals that are within Flintco. We see our presence and very knowledgeable and benefit those projects, but I also see the sophistication of the delivery methods, and it's been quite a journey to be along as the delivery methods and the type of projects that we're delivering in these areas has grown and become very unique. But what I absolutely love and that excites me is now we hear the end user's voice at the table and the design piece throughout the buyout, throughout the process itself, where before it was a design bid build. You're gonna get what you, we're gonna, kind of a, with all due respect, a government mentality. You're going to get what you get when you get it, and we'll tell you how you're going to get it. Through self-determination, the tribes have really stood on their own, and they're like, no, we'll tell you how and what we want, and now it's really working with each other in order to achieve that. Where before it was very compartmentalized in how we worked in those remote areas. But today, everybody's at the table to identify and determine what is best value for their constituents, for their tribal members. And it's probably one of the biggest growths that I've seen is the individuals that with a business acumen that are at the table making decisions, and now it's collective versus being told what they will receive. And it's an honor to have been a part of that journey.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that I was, hopeful of and has happened is, through self-determination, finally, tribes are able to really manage their destiny in the sense that, like you said, you're going to get what you get when you get it. But now it's, I'm going to tell you, I know what I want. We're going to design to that, and I get to control the process to deliver what our people need. And so I think, that's part of what I've seen in my short history working with you in Indian country.
And there's still a little bit of work to still go as we turn these facilities, these state-of-the-art facilities over in remote locations, is really developing the capacity to run these facilities. It's changed. It's like the day when we all used to be able to change the oil in our vehicle or change a thermostat or a belt. Mm-hmm. Now we lift our hood and we're trying to identify where we check our oil. Right. And these buildings are the same way. We've seen the sophistication of what it takes to operate these facilities turn. And so now a focus is really how we can assist and work with the end user early on and identify individuals that can maintain and run that facility so that it's sound for years to come.
Right. So a little bit going back to your career. So you left Fort Belknap. You found your way to Tallahena, Oklahoma. And so talk a little bit about just the different opportunities you had, different jobs throughout your career, and kind of culminating with what you do today as the, Director of Tribal Relations.
Yes, I'd like to go back a second because I did miss some key character building and core values buildings that were instilled by not only my parents, but my grandparents. And so early on, our mother had us out on Get Out to Vote, Christmas on Wheels. We first started on Get Out to Vote by stuffing flyers on windshields, and then it metamorphosed into making bread and plates as we registered voters to hauling voters to the polls. And so we're very active in that, as well as philanthropy work. Our mother was the effort that she put into our community and keeping, in my eyes, how I look at it, keeping the hearts of the women strong and focusing on education, ensuring that mothers, young mothers had at a minimum their GED and metamorphosing that into getting their associate's degree to today our tribal college being able to produce bachelor degrees at the tribal college. In work values, a couple of things my parents both said is get your education, nobody can take that away, and nobody can take away your work values. So being opportunities coming few and far between, my sisters and I started a cleaning company, 11, 9, and 8, and drove on the back roads to deliver my sisters to houses that we were cleaning. We cleaned by really what we could do that best. Jen, you got this. Raina, you got this. I've got this. And we just cleaned these houses Eventually, a gentleman saw our work and asked if we could help start cleaning construction, residential construction. I'm going to leave names out of this because we were young and we were working for opportunities, and we all know what that's like. We were under the age of 15, so going on record is a little difficult at that time, but I thank that individual. He identified values in 3 young individuals that were just trying to keep things going, trying to work and really do what was modeled by our parents and start for your own, and being able to make decisions on your own once you have resources. You can't have resources unless you're working hard. So ultimately, I think this individual who asked if we could start working and cleaning these construction projects, eventually we worked our way into painting. So before we were 15, my sisters and I had a cleaning painting company. And let's just push through from there. I started to run a fireworks stand, back to working for Bum and Barb Stiff Farm. And I managed their fireworks stands, and I babysat from them. And I babysat for them. I have 3 of their children, and I won't mention just because I didn't ask. But so from babysitting, cleaning, to painting, hard work was instilled into our family. Move on to just the opportunities that have come through Flintco. My husband and I, my children's father, we eventually started a Rulon installation company, but going back to being transferred to Tallahena, Oklahoma, if I wanted to go, our opportunities again coming few and far between. I was supposed to go into special ed, but I took a hard ride into construction. And to be honest with you, it's been one of the best journeys. And I know that the Creator, what He had in mind for me when He sent all the mentors and the people that helped to build me, because it prepared me for what was ahead. And I can tell you, as challenging as anything was, I had the skill sets and the tools given to me by my parents and my grandparents to persevere, but not only persevere, but to represent where I come from. And that ability is very, very important to me, because at the end of the day, we go back home to our people. And it'll be my people that sing our journey songs. And that beacon and that guide has really been in front of me my whole career, because to honor my ancestors and my family is probably one of the biggest joys. And to be able to do that through Flintco is absolutely phenomenal. And I'm very grateful for that.
Yeah, I think was one of the many things I admire about you is you always you always think about representing your people and especially your family. And, that's something that I learned from you, right? And I really admire that. So let's talk a little bit more. So we've got your background covered, and you have a great story. Talk a little bit about when you arrived in Oklahoma, what that looked like. You took a big chance. You had a company. You decided, hey, I'm going to go do this. And then just kind of walk through your career a little bit from that point to where you are today.
So was transferred to Tallahena, Oklahoma, working for the Choctaw Nation. My cousin and I drove down in my Grand Am, loaded from the back seat to the ceiling. Whatever could fit in that car is what left with me to Oklahoma. Thank you for my cousin, and congratulations to him. He was just elected to our tribal council. So I want to say thank you, George J. We drove down, took us 3 days to get to Oklahoma, and we wound into Tallahena, which is in the Ouachita Mountains, right in between Arkansas and Oklahoma. And coming from rural Montana, let me tell you, that was quite an experience. But it was one of the best times of my life, pre-children, and just seizing an opportunity. I got to noodle. I got to, ride horses there. I met an individual that had a bulldogging background, and he welcomed me to his place, showed me around, and he said, you're here, you're home, you've been introduced, take care of it like I would take care of it. And I thank that gentleman to this day, because it helped to bridge that gap between everything that was new and where I came from. But the first thing I recognized, that no matter where I went in Indian country, there were similarities that brought us together like family. And whether it was relationships or individuals that lived there, somebody that married in, no matter where I went in those 18 years of building, and being referred or being transferred from project to project, there was individuals there from home, and somehow, some way I met them, and my children met them, and it was always that reminder that what we do comes back to home, comes home very quickly. So it aligned with the way that we do the work, because we're family, we're all relations, no matter where we're at.
So thinking about tribal businesses, it makes me think about your perspective on the growth of tribal businesses in our industry. And so can you talk a little bit about when you first started, what your experience was? And you've had a huge impact on growing tribal businesses, especially in our industry. But talk a little bit about where that started, where you see that today, and then where does that go into the future?
So if I speed up here, my voice gets a little higher. This is because this is something that excites me. This is something that truly is my passion and drives me, is the utilization of our people. There was a time when we first started, and it was just getting individuals on the job through workforce. And through that, the metamorphosis not only being promoted by Flintco and other contractors and the laws of the land, but eventually the utilization of the businesses, going in and identifying and building and growing those businesses. And we see now these businesses being able to stand alone and execute scopes of work and contracts and not work under a prime or a first tier sub. When I first started, our tribal businesses were typically second or third tier subs, hoping to get really piecemeal work on these projects. But we're very grateful for even that opportunity, taking from, to be a part of these projects that were in their community. Instead of watching the parade go by, they're actually in the parade. And it was one of the terminologies. And, recently we were at a groundbreaking, grand opening for the Dilcon Health Center. And Mr. John Barton came up to me, which I met very early on. It was a referral from the National Center as a business that was in that area. I met with him, and he ended up working on our project. But to get to speak to him at that ribbon cutting and how his business grew and the gratitude that he had for being a part of that project, when in my mind it only made sense. Why would you not be here? You have a service, you service it well, you're in the community. It only made sense to utilize. But the gratitude that he felt and that he shared with me for being a part of that, and how his business grown to where it's at today, and how many units he has and the communities that he can now serve based on one opportunity that we provided, again, that only made sense. And so we see these, again, going from manpower utilization to the business acumen that has been gained by individuals. And many of these individuals that are now supporting their tribes through their own businesses now are working in their own areas, working remote. Today we have traveling Native American subs that will travel into areas, and it's an honor to know that they trust us enough to pick up and go and execute projects 4 states away from where their home base. And so we see a lot more traveling. We see a lot more we see a lot more activity and presence of our tribal subs, not only the local but outside tribal contractors that are coming in and bidding on this work.
So you mentioned to me that he also was able to, because of that opportunity, was able to go ahead and send his children to college.
Yes.
I mean, that's a direct impact.
Exactly.
For one opportunity.
And then, yes, and he said, now I've got to fill the hole for what the boys did. And I said, that's a good hole to have to fill, John.
Right.
And so that's, to be honest with you, that's the stuff that motivates and drives me, that makes those long trips, those airports, those planes, trains, and automobile rides to get into these areas. Because, as many of you know, these are remote locations. And I think probably one of the other biggest change that I've seen is the tribally funded projects in lieu of the government funded projects. where the tribes are now determining how and what they want built based on their own revenue. And they're bringing these projects that have been shelved or dreams of their people for years, they're bringing them to fruition. Community centers, veteran centers, dialysis centers. You know, our typical program of requirements don't have dialysis centers programmed into their design specs, which still is a wonder to me, but ultimately the tribes are stepping up, and they're bringing these resources and these facilities to their people to really determine best health care. And it's an honor to be able to build directly for the tribes and those projects that they brought to fruition on their own.
Yeah, they're kind of filling in the gaps of what they're not getting from some of the funding that's out there.
Yes, and it's from some of the treaty obligations, as we know, the economy where it's at, et cetera. Sometimes these projects, you know, we've been a part of projects that have taken 30 and 40 years to come to fruition. The Dilcon Health Center project I just mentioned, that was a 40 years in the process. The Rapid City Health Center project, you know, the largest design build urban healthcare center, to be a part of that is phenomenal. For years, many American Indians had left home. We haven't had healthcare in urban areas, and now the focus is bringing healthcare into urban areas, and we hope and anticipate to be a part of that journey as well.
That's fantastic. What have you seen in terms of, while we're focusing on our industry, from the design side, in terms of native companies that are working in that space, from kind of when you first got started to where you are today?
Yes, we have design disciplines now that are American Indian owned, and they're doing work outside of Indian country. And to me, that growth and who's at the table when we are designing and designing these projects. Now we see, you know, civil engineers that are not only doing American Indian work and the work through Indian Health Service or Bureau of Indian Affairs, but you see a project in downtown Arkansas or downtown Dallas that we've seen our partners that be a part of these. Your shoulders go back so far and your head gets held high, because I know what it took for those individuals to get to where they're at. We all know what it takes to just the courage to start a business anywhere, to identify I've got something to serve this industry or to serve this market, and the courage to go out there and do it and then be successful. My goodness, how do you not support those individuals, and how do you not just applaud them the whole way while you're seeing what they've been a part of? So not only through the design disciplines are we seeing American Indian companies, but the architects, the contractors, our competition, it's great. Competition is good. Competition is what keeps us strong, keeps us focused, and to have American Indian companies compete against us, I'm proud to see that. And I wish them well. And, you know, they win, we win. Hey, we're still bettering the industry. We're raising the bar for what to expect from a building. It's no longer just bricks and mortar or means and methods. There's other things to be accomplished, and understanding what those are and how to accomplish them is huge. And, you know, we wish anybody that's in this market or looking at coming into this market that you really, really pay attention to the needs of the people, because it is a unique market. It's very rewarding. And I look forward to continuing to serve this market and better, and continue to raise that bar for expectation on how projects are brought to fruition, not only the construction side, but the front end work, the funding, the design specs, the program of requirements, and how you work within all of those guidelines to really serve and bring a project to fruition that it's what's needed, versus a high level make it work for you.
Yeah. So we talked a lot about the industry, but what's been fascinating for me to see, and I'd like you to expand on this a little bit, is now how, you know, tribes have really developed, you know, their investments and really grown in terms of being able to help other tribes in terms of loans and support that way. And I think it's fantastic just to see that, because you're seeing a lot of successful tribes really reaching across the country and helping underpin some of the financing that needs to happen for other tribes. Can you talk a little bit about what you've seen and what, you know, how that's really benefiting Indian country as well?
Yes, and and it is. It's exciting to see this. We're currently on projects that are tribally owned but tribally funded as well, and it goes back to we're all relations. We all work together and we're stronger in numbers. Keeping these dollars in Indian country, they come from a Native American Indian entity. Going to American Indian entity for an American Indian project. All that money is generated within our community and stays in our community. That's a huge, huge difference from when I first started this industry. And so to continue to see that, but it also, it marches in sync with being better. Being better, being stronger, being more focused, being more pointed, and what you get, and really focusing on business acumen, coupled with what we know is the right thing to do and what the tribes honor instinctively.
So what do you see in terms of kind of the future with respect to, recently there a lot of water rights have been settled. There's just a number of decade-long issues that needed to get resolved. And I think they're starting to be resolved from a legal perspective, but then what happens next? So where do what is your perspective in terms of those issues that are starting to get resolved, and what's the next step for tribes in terms of water rights and things of that nature?
We see huge growth in a couple of different market sectors that we hadn't seen in the past, but our people have been preparing for them in subtle ways. And in respect to the Indian water settlements, we have obligations as Indigenous peoples to be stewards of those waters, stewards of those resources, and stewards of the lands. And so this affects how we look at the work that's coming into Indian country. There's two huge areas that I see that are in works now, have been in the works through water rights as well as renewable energy, and they're tied to one another. We look at these Indian water rights settlements that have been approved by Congress the last 10 years. There's a huge climate control piece and global warming and how that is addressed. And so not only do we see it coming, but our people are prepared for it. We now have people at the table, not only in the government municipalities, but boots on the ground that are educating on the pros and the cons of these different ways to extract and quantify water. As we go into the water rights settlements, and they're having to quantify water for their people for the next 100 years. That's a very unique situation for tribal leaders to be put in, especially as our leaders term in and out, depending on their own tribal governments. As an individual can sit at a table for a year and made responsible to look at 100 years of quantification. So as you can understand, our tribes are moving methodically, but with business acumen, but coupled with our obligations of where we come from. So it's going to happen, and our tribes know it's going to happen, but we are moving forward cautiously and ensuring that it's done with our voices at the table. And that's a huge difference of what I've seen through construction. It took a while to get there, but immediately these market sectors, we have our people at the table in many, many different areas.
A lot of expertise, legal expertise.
Legal, and I've gone to a few water rights conferences, and I saw individuals there that I saw when I was growing up, when I'd go to these water conferences with my dad. The only difference is the braids are a lot smaller than they were those years when I met them, but these individuals are still in there and they're fighting the fight. And it's a good fight, and maybe that's not exactly the right word, but as individuals in these market sectors, they are today's warriors. We're no longer fighting like we used to, but they are warriors through education, and they're at the table fighting to ensure that our people voices are heard, and that we're doing this in the most responsible, respectful way, because it is going to happen, but doing it in the right way that will ensure that generations to come are served in the right capacity, because as Indigenous people, we know that whatever we do and the decisions that we make are taking from our grandchildren.
Understand. So you mentioned renewable energy. I'd like you to talk a little bit about that. That's interesting with climate change and trying to balance that out or reverse those effects. What does that mean to Indian country in terms of renewable energy, whether economic impact, really helping sustain a healthy environment? What's your thoughts on renewable energy?
It's grown. It's grown a long way in terms of really the functionality and the success of renewable energy. In the past, it was parts of construction, just a sliver of it. But what I'm seeing more and more is that our tribes are wanting this. They're wanting to understand how we can tap into what has been given to us and how we utilize it. Renewable energy only makes sense. It's the sun and the power that the sun has, and many of our cultures, traditions, etc., tie back to the sun. And for us to be able to be a part of these, and right now there are government incentives, government opportunities that help that assist our tribes in determining what is done with renewable energy. We see it now where the tribes are able to put in place opportunities through renewable energy, solar array fields, et cetera, that now not only serve their community, but serve outside communities, and they're able to sit and watch the revenue and the profit come in from those with not as much risk as we'd seen through construction and bringing the life of a construction project, operation, the maintenance, the individuals that it takes to run these facilities. Renewable energy can be brought in and serve many areas, both on and off the reservation. So I also see this bridging the gap between a lot of our communities. And again, within states, we are states within states, basically our sovereign lands. But again, those states are stronger when the tribal communities are strong, that state is strong. And we're seeing that today through many of our tribes being economic drivers in the states that we're held, taking that to renewable energy, partnerships, collaborations, both on and off the reservations for renewable energy is the next market. And we're seeing it take off, but we're seeing it where our tribes are at the table. They're not just along for the ride. They're determining and they're setting the pace and the tone for how this work is done.
So in terms of this being Native American Heritage Month, can you talk a little bit about the things that are just, the month is to honor and remember the past and think about what's happening in the future, and to really, acknowledge the history of indigenous peoples in our country, what they've gone through, where we are today. We've talked a lot about where we are today, but from your perspective, what are your hopes for Indian country moving forward, in terms of just what do you think about where you want your people to be, when your daughter is doing this, 20, 30 years from now?
Well, to be quite honest, Rex, we're there right now. To see where we're at in tribal governments and state governments and, Deb Haaland, our Department of Interior Secretary, to see Deb and to have been in circles with her that are grassroots and boots on the ground. Our people are at the table, and where I see is to continue that, to take up that space where we're representing ourselves and no longer represented by outsiders. I think that's the biggest, and for us to be able to tell our stories, for us to have libraries and museums in our communities that tell our story versus others, people telling it. We get to hold on and protect what is ours, and we get to share what we feel needs to be shared. And that's been happening, and I've been seeing that growth. And so to continue to be there for my children, to be successful in whatever market sector they choose to go into, and to be honest, to be business owners, and to carve out a niche in this world, and to continue to have successful businesses, and to be present and to take up space throughout the U.S. in many, many areas, and to continue the growth and the trajectory that I've seen in the last 10 years, which has been phenomenal. And I say that because take the last time our market crashed, 2010. Rex, you know what it was like. All around us, projects were coming to an end, but Indian country continued to grow. We were strong. And that in itself makes your shoulders pull back, because as Indigenous people, we know we're humble. We know what it's like to have nothing, to have to make your own opportunity, make your own living, make your own dinner, from harvesting it to tracking it. And so we know what that takes. And I guess just what I see is to continue to be at the table and continue to take up good space and to continue to project good business in Indian country all the way around, and that our tribes that don't have the resources or the demographics to be successful, that we continue to honor them and assist with a hand up, not a handout, but we look for our brothers and sisters, and we continue to see how we assist to build and grow each other, and provide opportunities and help those that perhaps can't ever help us back, and to see where those efforts and those energies land.
So I want to go a little off topic here, but I just want to talk about you a little bit. So what drives you? What makes you happy? What do you personally want to achieve as you continue through your career and then even beyond? What's the future look like for Vernelle Chase?
Well, Rex, you and I have had many conversations about this, and one of the things I want to recognize is you continuing to empower me to think outside of the box. And what do you want, Vernelle? And to make that happen, whether it's the goals and the initiatives that we set out within our company. But for Vernelle, is to continue to serve Indian country and the best capacity in what I have to offer. And I do know this, that the Creator made me tireless, and I have a lot of energy and a lot of areas to serve. But if I can do that in a manner that empowers one individual that is in an area that looks at our industry, takes an opportunity and runs with it, I eventually see me starting my own business and in my community. But I may end up going back into education in my later years and really doing something that I feel is rewarding and serving, because I love children, I love my elders, I love learning, and that just to be able to give a hand through the experience and bring all of the things that I've learned on the outside back home, and be able to help and uplift or provide an opportunity or motivate one individual. But the opportunities for me are pretty big. I can really feel I could do whatever I want to focus on and make that happen. But right now there's still a lot of work that I feel needs to be done together, and I look forward to doing that work.
That's really closing the loop, and coming back to education where you first thought you wanted to be, and then coming back to that. I can see that in you, because
it really
that's
is
a box that's not checked, and you're going to check that box.
I will check that box, and currently I've just went full circle back to the Pacific Northwest in the early 2000s. I was referred to a project up on the Lummi Reservation, and we built this school, phenomenal design build school, and I fell in love with it there. We got there, and we offer tobacco when we see an eagle, and we come from Bellingham, and we got down to that peninsula, and these eagles were coming in, and like, oh my goodness, man, we pulled over and we offered that tobacco. We said our prayers. End of the day, man, there's more eagles. So pulled out that tobacco again, offered another prayer. Next day, there's more eagles. Every day there was eagles. I told James at the time, I was like, we're gonna have to get some more tobacco. But it was a place that was home away from home. That is one thing that every project that we were referred to, it was a home away from home for my children and I, and we immediately were drawn to elders and people that became family. And to this day, we can go into 4 regions of the United States, and my children have family and individuals that have chosen to love them as strangers, and have today kept loving us. And that's probably one of the biggest joys, is that my children have been exposed to a way of life and have family throughout the U.S., throughout Indian country, that they can lean on regardless of where they go. And they have a network that's already been developed based off of not only my efforts, but their own efforts, because my children were little ambassadors for Flintco when they were young, and they were promoting Flintco. I remember when my daughter wanted to be an architect for Flintco, and at that time we didn't have architects. Architects were on the other side of the table, but now the reality is we have architects on this side of the table, just like you, Rex.
Yeah.
You come join the dark side with us, and now it's joking, but construction really is an industry that has grown and metamorphosed into professional services. We're no longer knuckle dragging industry. It's an industry that's very rewarding and sophisticated. And to be a part of that growth and to see that growth in Indian country, and for us to be able to grow with the funds, the delivery methods, has been phenomenal. And so I look forward to what's ahead. There's a lot of work that still needs to be done in terms of doing the work right, but combining our experience as well as our knowledge and our education, the individuals that are building and the efficiencies and how we tie those into better projects and continuing to grow. I look forward to that.
I've witnessed Haley and Franklin being ambassadors for Flintco all over the country. Tell us what they're doing and what they're up to these days.
Oh, thank you. So Haley is in Washington. She's currently playing basketball. She's on an athletic scholarship. She is going into environmental engineering. And Frank James is in Durango, and he is attending college at Fort Lewis, going into physical therapy. He's currently working with youth, teaching them how to snow and ski board and looking at bike skiing. So he's always taking on new opportunities or new ventures, but they're currently both in school, working towards their
Franklin,
careers.
He's teaching children with disabilities.
Yes, he is.
Snow sports.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, he is. He's
awesome.
He's got a huge heart, and so yes, he's out there. Franklin is going into physical therapy. Once he leaves Fort Lewis, he's looking at to New Mexico State. But as we know, things change with the youth. But so I'm on the ride with their journey. But yes, they're both doing good. They're working. They're independently. They're on their career path. Doing what they love. And that's probably one of the biggest joys for me is my children have gotten to choose what they want to do versus it having chosen for them based on lack of opportunities or resources. Yeah. They've gotten to pick and choose.
That's awesome. You know, you mentioned Haley's basketball scholarship, and it reminded me earlier in our conversation we were talking about your rodeo scholarship. You know, we've never really talked much about that. I know you drag trailers all over the, the upper Midwest. But tell me a little bit more about that experience. That's amazing.
Well, I did grow up rodeoing. Like I said, I grew up in a ranch cattle family. I barrel raced, I team roped, and I breakaway roped. In high school, there was a lot of other events, pole bending, etc., that you did, and qualified for the Indian National Finals when I was in junior high. I was the summer of my seventh grade year. Yeah. My parents at that time put me in ladies barrel racing versus juniors, so I was competing against women when I was in junior high, which again, thank you parents for pushing me and giving me the courage to step up to that plate and to just do what I do with full heart. And so thank you again, Mom and Dad. But yes, eventually I got a rodeo scholarship from Miles Community College, where I barrel raced and I roped there. That opportunity, led me to, really build a network outside. But through the rodeo world and cowboy life, truly, again, made me for this industry. So being a cowgirl in this industry, coming from a reservation, I hunt, I fish, I was taught how to do all of these things from very phenomenal men that took the time to teach me. So coupled with my heart, my experience, being a cowgirl, I feel like I was destined to work in construction, and it's just been a perfect match. And I'll tell you, as we've traveled throughout the U.S. building projects and going into different areas, Rex and many of the individuals individuals that we work with, they think I know everybody, but truly it's because of, being able to rodeo, my parents' background and their work and their market sectors that they were in, really takes Indian country to a half a degree where everybody knows one another. But through the rodeoing and those skill sets, it's really given me the courage to do what I have to do in this industry, or what I feel are important. And Flintco has given me the ability and empowered me to put those things in place. And that's truly giving back and providing opportunities for our people on sovereign lands where we're building. And yes, being a cowgirl has helped to make that happen.
That's wonderful. Yeah, I can see how it gets you ready for what we do these days. So we talked a lot about you, your family, your work in Indian country and our industry, but we haven't really talked about your people. You're Grovan.
Yes.
You're more than that. You're much more than that. And there's more to it. But I think it'd be interesting for people to listen to really, some history about your people.
So yes, I am an enrolled Grovan. Our traditional name is the Aani. Grovan was our government name that was given to us. We were placed on the Fort Belknap Indian Reservation with the Assiniboine. We were two warring tribes at one time, but we were placed on the reservation. We were established in 1887. I am an enrolled Grovan, as I said, but I was raised Assiniboine on the river bottom at Fort Belknap. My mom is Assiniboine and my stepdad is Assiniboine, but I'm also Mandan. My dad, my paternal grandfather, was from Fort Berthold, North Dakota, where he's Mandan. So altogether, I am Grovan, Assiniboine, and Mandan. And growing up, coupled both with not only Catholic upbringing, but also traditional upbringing, and honoring both of those ways of life, and continuing to stay strong to our prayers, our medicines, has really guided and kept me strong as I'm out here, because wherever I'm at, our medicine is strong and our people are there, and there's a constant reminder of where I come from and where I'll go back to, and really is the beacon in how I do this work. And with the support of Flintco, doing the work right that is meaningful, more meaningful than just a building that goes up that will serve that community or that area. And so this work is important, and we make it fun because construction is fun, to see projects coming up and going down all around us, and to be a part of these facilities, again, that'll be there past our lifetimes, will serve and better the quality of life, whether it's through education or healthcare, and that we're a part of these, and that the tribes now are picking and choosing how they come, how they're built, and we get to see them go up. And yes, just to be a part of those is phenomenal.
So, talking about your people, your traditional faith, if you will, your Catholic faith, one of the things that I always admired about you is that you don't worry about a whole lot in terms of how things, you've always got, that is your foundation, that's your backstop. And it seems to me that you're always so courageous and moving forward because that faith you have. And would you attribute that to both intertwining and respecting both and practicing both, that you have this connection to, not only Mother Earth, but also, your faith on the Catholic side? Just talk a little bit about that.
Absolutely. As a young child, I always had this blind faith in the Lord Jesus Christ and what was out there and how he would take care of me and mine. And I moved forward with that courage and that faith all the time. And I think there's also when you move with your heart and you identify a need and you act on that need, to help or to assist or whatever it is, that builds a foundation and a track record that know that the energy that you put into this universe, you will be taken care of, as will your own. And the decisions that you make and how you make those decisions, and think full circle, the full effect of those decisions. Mm-hmm. Once you start making those and you're confident in those, you know that the right the outcome will be right. And if it's not, you work with it and you make the best of it, because it's only temporary.
That is a motivation for me that I've gotten from you, and that is where you see the need, step in and help. And I just remember so many times, I remember during COVID, and you just going and getting water and taking it out to the first responders and communities, and just along the time that I've known you, just being there for the people, whether it's, stepping in to cook, for a fundraiser, or to really for people who needed food, and you being able to do that. So you have inspired me, and I admire you for not only that, for so many things, but that's an inspiration that you really have given me. That's the gift you've given me, is that you just do not look away. You never look away. You just go and you address that need. And it's so many different levels, and so I appreciate you for that. And thank you so much for, coming into Flintco Talks and sharing your story, being really, really open. I think a lot of people can learn from you, and this is going to be great for people learning more about what's happening in Indian country, the progress that's been made. I think that your answer to me about we're here, now it's about just getting better, moving forward, took me a little bit by surprise, because fortunately, I know the history of Indian country and the struggles and the time that has gone by that wasn't necessary in terms of doing the right thing for people and finally getting around to it. So just thank you so much for sharing. And I think it's really great for honoring Native Americans, and especially during this month where that's what we want to do. So thank you so much, and as you always say to me, Pinamiyar.
Thank you, Rex. We've got a lot of work to be done, and I know that we'll do that in the best manner that serves our people. Thank you.
You bet. Thank you.
It's been such a long